Shalom, Israel. Brother Reggie Jr. here. So today I'm going to be picking up with Genesis chapter 9. And with that, guys, let's just go ahead and get right into it. Genesis chapter 9 and verse 1, and it says, "And God blessed Noah and his sons, and said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth." And what we have to understand is that Noah was a righteous man, or at least he was deemed righteous in the eyes of God. And so you notice how the Lord destroyed all the ungodly, but yet he saved Noah alive. And then he told Noah's sons, he said, "Be fruitful and multiply." See, we know that Noah was a godly man, and naturally we know that Noah, he taught his sons how to be godly. He taught his sons the laws, statutes, and commandments, because as you guys know, they've always been around. But see, the Lord, his plan is very simple. All he's ever wanted on this earth was to fill this earth full of godly men and godly women. Men and women who are modeled after him, not just in visage, but in spirit. And let me show you what I mean. Let's go to Genesis chapter 1 and verse 26. And it says, "And God said, Let us make man in our image." Okay, so that's the visage. Man has head, arms, legs, feet. That's the image. But then God proceeds to say, "And after our likeness." What does he mean by that? And after our likeness? Because you got the image part down. But then it says, "and after our likeness." What was God talking about? God was talking about this. See, he didn't just want to fill this world with men that just simply look like him, arms, legs, But what he really wanted was to have men and women inhabit this earth, but also had the mind that he had. That's what he intended. In other words, he wanted godly men and godly women all over this earth. And what I'm trying to say is, when you go back to Genesis chapter 9, when you look at Noah, okay, he destroyed all the ungodly in the flood. God did. And he preserved Noah, a righteous man. And then he had Noah's sons to multiply on this earth. Do you know why the Lord saved Noah alive? Because he wanted to start over. Because, the men before, they were all wicked. So what the Lord did was destroy all those wicked men. And then he had Noah's sons to multiply. Because what the Lord intended was, Noah's a righteous man. Therefore, we know Noah taught his sons how to be righteous. Shem, Ham, and Japheth. So no doubt they were righteous and godly men. So guess what? From there, those three boys, they would teach their sons. And their sons would teach their sons. Daughters too, but I'm just saying, I'm making a point. Their sons would teach their sons. And their sons would teach their sons. And then from there, the whole earth would have been filled with godly men and godly women. But we know that didn't happen because, that's sinful nature. But I'm here to tell you that we're looking at a model of what it's going to be like when Christ makes his second coming. And he comes back and he recovers the remnant of Israel. In newsflash, when we talk about the remnant of Israel, we've been lied to. We've been thinking the whole time the remnant of Israel is a couple, is some bad Israelites and righteous Israelites. No, the remnant is nothing but righteous Israelites. And there are scriptures all over the Bible to support that. But I'm not here to deal with that. I'm just here to make a point to you guys. Actually, let's go ahead and read some scriptures real quick. Genesis chapter 22. And I'm going to read, having a hard time flipping my Bible. Genesis chapter 22, verses 17 and 18. And it says this: "That in blessing I will bless thee, And in multiplying, I will multiply thy seed as the stars of heaven, and as the sand which is upon the seashore. And thy seed shall possess the gate of thine enemies. 18. And in thy seed shall all the nations be blessed, all the nations of the earth be blessed, because thou hast obeyed my voice. But let's go back to verse 17, because I want to point out something. It says, I will multiply thy seed as the stars of heaven, and thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies. See, that right there truly hasn't happened yet. That is going to happen truly when Christ makes his second coming and he gathers the remnant of Israel. We're going to populate this earth beyond measure. We're going to be as the stars of heaven. But you know what? This time, Israel is going to be righteous. Because see, we failed before, but not this time. This time, Israel, they're going to all be righteous. This time, we're going to teach our children's children. We're going to follow the covenant 100%. This world is going to be filled with righteous Israelites. So let me show you what I mean. Let's go ahead real quick, guys. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 10. And this is my first time teaching this, so my words aren't really coming out how I want them to, but hey, it's the first time for everything, right? Isaiah chapter 10, verses 21 through 23, right? Now, this is dealing with how a remnant of Israel will be saved. And let me say this again. Let me just say this again. The remnant of Israel is the righteous. It's not a mix of wicked and righteous Israelites. It's not. That is a lie. There are scriptures showing you that the Lord is only coming back for the righteous, okay? And what's going to come back when he comes back? What's going to happen when he comes back for the righteous? Let me look back, because I need to make sure I'm reading the right scriptures. Verse 21 through 23, and it says, the remnant shall return, the righteous, the remnant of them shall return, even the remnant of Jacob, unto the mighty God. And that remnant is small, brothers and sisters. This is not a huge remnant. This is a small remnant, okay? Verse 22, and it says, for though thy people Israel be as the sand of the sea. That's right now. We are as the sand of the sea. Now, we're scattered and we're few among the nations, but together as a whole, we're as the sand of the sea. It's a lot of us. But what does the Lord say? It says, yet a remnant of them shall return, right? Just like in the days of Noah, only a remnant made it. And what was that remnant? 8 souls. Only 8 people made it. And make no mistake, they were righteous, or else I have no doubt the Lord would have wiped them out. Only 8 souls, and the rest of the ungodly was destroyed, okay? It says, and yet only a remnant of them returned. It says, the consumption decree shall overflow with righteousness. You know where that consumption is happening at right now? It's not something that's afar off. The consumption is right now. Israel is being consumed left and right, but Jacob's trouble, that is going to be the pinnacle of the death concerning the children of Jacob. That's when we will truly go down to a remnant in terms of sheer populace, in terms of sheer numbers. But make no mistake, right now in these lands all over the world that we're at, we're perishing left and right. We're dying in droves. But the ultimate one is going to be Jacob's trouble. But I wanted to let you know, when it says only a remnant of them shall return, it's going to be that very remnant when Christ comes back. That remnant right now that remnant right there, they're going to fill this earth with righteousness. It's going to be an earth full of Israelites, but it's not going to just be full of Israelites. It's going to be full of righteous Israelites, because they're not going to turn back like our forefathers did. No, they're going to follow the covenant wholeheartedly. They're going to go after the Lord with their whole heart. No backsliding this time. And so when these Israelites begin to populate, guess what? Them children, they're going to teach their children's children and their children's children. That's what's going to happen. And this whole world going to be full of Israelites as the stars of heaven. Do you know how many stars there are out there? You can't even number them. Well, that's how the children of Israel are going to be. But I was just trying to show you guys that that was the Lord's plan. He wasn't just trying to merely fill this earth with bodies. He was trying to fill this earth with bodies of people who think like him, not just look like him in visage, but they have his spirit. They're righteous. They're godly. Okay. And I hope that made sense. Again, it's my first time kind of teaching that, but it's the first time for everything, like I said earlier. But let's keep it moving, guys. I don't want to take too long. Verse 2, and it says, "And the fear of you and dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and upon every fowl of the air, upon all that moveth upon the earth, and upon all the fishes of the sea. Into your hand are they delivered." So that's why you see now with animals, after the, post flood, you see that animals are very skittish around us humans. They're basically uneasy. So that fear and dread of you, that's why you see that uneasiness, right? We have to get animals to trust us. But upon the first encounter, they run away from us, or they attack us because they're in fear for their lives. Because remember, the Lord gave us rule over them. And man been conquering and straight ruling over animals. What you think all those zoos and stuff are for? Because we've conquered animals. The Lord gave us that dominion over them. Okay. But that fear and dread, that mark that the Lord put on all of the creatures of this earth and stuff, even the fish, you go down in the water, go reach out for a fish, the fish hurry up and swim off. That's that fear and dread. But before that, you could go right up to a fish and touch it. Imagine being able to walk in a lion's den, and the lions start wagging their tail and they start getting happy, and they come to you in gentleness and in peace. Well, hey, that bond was broken when man decided that they wanted to sin and act crazy. But let's keep it going. Verse 3, and it says, "Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you. Even as the green herb have I given you all things." So here we see in Genesis chapter 9 and verse 3 that post-flood, the Lord put meat on the table. Not some man, the Lord put meat on the table. And he even said, "Even as I have given the green herb, have I given you all things." And so the green herb was what? Vegetables. And also we know he gave the fruit of the trees, so fruits and vegetables. But he's also now putting meat on the table. Now, upon reading that, does that mean you can eat anything? Because people will look at that last part. It says, I have given you all things, all things to eat. No, the Lord still has a law of what you can and cannot eat. Let's go ahead real quick and go to Leviticus chapter 11. And I believe in my previous lesson, I believe that I went over these very two scriptures here in Leviticus 11. Leviticus chapter 11, and we're going to read verses 46 and 47. It says, "This is the law of the beast." And this same law right here that I'm about to read, this law been existed. It's just Israel was the first and only nation that got these laws. And it says, "This is the law of the beast, and of the fowl, and of every living creature that moveth in the waters, and of every creature that creepeth upon the earth. Now, didn't it say that in verse 3? It summed it up. It said, every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you. Well, that's kind of what it said right here in verse 46 in Leviticus 11. It says, this is the law of the beast and of the fowl and every living creature that moveth in the waters, and of every creature that creepeth upon the earth. So that's everything. This is the law. Verse 47. To make a difference between the clean, to make a difference between the unclean and the clean, and between the beasts that may be eaten and the beasts that may not be eaten. So it wasn't like Noah and them could just eat whatever they wanted to eat in terms of meat. No, they still had a guideline. They still had a law that they had to abide by. So yes, even in the days of Noah, the dietary law had already existed. That's the point I'm trying to make. But let's keep reading. Back to Genesis 9. Let's read verse 4. And it says, but the flesh with the life thereof concerning meat. It says, but the flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood thereof. So we see here that the blood is the life of everything. It says, shall ye not eat. So we are not allowed, brothers and sisters, to eat bloody meat. Now, other nations, they eat bloody meat. They do. Some of them like to have, well, a lot of these nations, they love having raw foods, raw meats, should I say. Well, according to Genesis 9, you're not supposed to be having raw meat, because if you guys didn't know, even though they clean off that raw meat, there is still blood in there. You can't see it, but sometimes there's still blood in that raw meat, in the very fibers of that meat. That's why you have to cook that meat well done. You have to cook that thing, because this ensures that blood cannot exist. But let's go ahead real quick. Let's go ahead and go to Deuteronomy chapter 12. Deuteronomy chapter 12. And I believe I'm going to be reading verse 23. And it says, only be sure that thou eat not the blood. So this is now God giving Israel the law. Just like he gave Noah the law, he's giving the nation of Israel the law. Only be sure that thou eat not the blood. None of that raw stuff. For the blood is the life. Again, the blood is the life. And thou mayest not eat the life with the flesh. Now, I know a lot of you guys may say, well, what's the point of the Lord giving us that law? Well, the point of the Lord giving us that law is he knew that there would come a time that he would scatter us as a nation, both houses, Israel and Judah. He knew that the days would come, as we had already been doing even when we were in the land, that we would follow after the heathen. Again, that we would follow after the heathen and we would do what they did. So we would no longer eat our meats cooked. We would eat our meats raw or kind of done. And the meat still got blood in it, man. The Lord said, do not do that. Also, too, they did rituals and stuff in those other nations with bloody meat, got to eat stuff, all that kind of weird stuff like that. But the Lord knew that Israel, he knew we would follow after the nation. And he was telling us, hey, don't do what they do. Do not eat that bloody meat, because I'm going to require that at your hands. All right. So let's go ahead real quick. Let's go to Leviticus 17. Try not to do too much talking here, because I do want to make sure I get done with this lesson in a timely manner. Leviticus chapter 17 in verse 10. And it says this. And whatsoever man there be of the house of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn among you, that eateth any manner of blood, I will set my face against that soul that eateth blood, and will cut him off from among his people. And that's why right there, man, you see, especially Israel, you see a lot of sick people everywhere. And this is why the Lord didn't want us following the heathen, because he knew that y'all gonna eat some bloody meat. And it ain't just that alone, but I'm just focusing in on the bloody meat, because he know you're gonna eat this bloody meat and I'm gonna have to take you out. Now, when the Lord takes you out from eating this bloody meat, he doesn't automatically just, but what does he do? He hits you with all kind of sicknesses and diseases. That's why Israel, they all over these hospitals with all these ailments, because a lot of these Israelites eating bloody meat. A lot of Israel, and be honest, a lot of y'all, before coming into the truth and learning about the dietary law, a lot of us, we love sushi. I'm not gonna lie, y'all. I ate a lot of that stuff. I used to go to a little, I think it was like a little Korean buffet place, and I'll never forget, man, I used to be getting that sushi. Oh man, I remember that. I think that's called sushi too, right? They have like the little raw fish. It's like wrapped around some kind of rice, and then it's got like a leaf in it or something like that. I forgot what it's called, but man, I used to love that stuff. But then when I started reading the word, the Lord said, man, you can't be eating that stuff. And I remember too, after eating those things, I used to feel like crap. Now, it was good while I was eating it, but boy, I used to feel like crap. I used to walk around, my head was hot. I felt hot all over all the time. But that's because that stuff makes you sick. You need to cook your food. But Israel, we like to follow these nations and do what they do. So that's why, man, we got to come back to the covenant. That's why a lot of our people, man, they hurting. And a lot of our people, they have health problems. A lot of them. But let's go ahead and continue this thing on, guys. I don't want to stay on one thing all day. Verse 5, it says, and surely your blood of your lives will I require. Cut off. That's the cutoff point of that scripture. Surely your blood of your lives will I require. What? If you eat bloody meat. That's what he's saying. Now, it says, let's continue after the cutoff point of verse 5. It says, at the hand of every beast will I require, and at the hand of man, at the hand of every man's brother will I require the life of man. So now we dealing here with the shedding of blood. So if a man or an animal shed innocent blood, they are to be put to death. So let's go ahead real quick and let's go to Exodus chapter 21. Exodus chapter 21, because this is actually a very similar law that the Lord gave the nation of Israel. Exodus 21, and I'm going to read verse 28 and 29, and it says, if an ox gore a man or a woman, that they die, then the ox shall be surely stoned. Didn't the Lord say back here in Genesis 9 that he will surely require at the hand of beasts if they kill a man? Well, we reading it right here. Same law the Lord gave the nation of Israel. He said that ox shall surely be stoned. So it wasn't even like you would get a sword and cut the ox throat like that. God want a slow, painful death for this animal. Boy, the Lord don't play, man. Stoning is very brutal. It's a very slow and painful death. And it says, finishing up verse 28, it says, and his flesh shall not be eaten. So after that, you shall not even eat this ox. It says, but the owner of the ox shall be quit. Verse 29. And it says, but if the ox were wont to push with his horn in time past, and it have been testified to his owner meaning that it's been testified in the past that this man's damn ox is dangerous. Okay, and I'm not going to lie, it pissed me off. We got a lot of Israelites in this neighborhood. They got these big dogs running free and running loose, biting children and everything. Well, there was a law for this kind of stuff. If an ox gore a man or a woman, that they die, then the ox shall be surely stoned. Okay, I already read that. 29. But if the ox were wont to push with his horn in times past, and it have been testified to his owner, meaning we told him, hey man, get your dang ox, man. Your ox is dangerous. And it says, and he have not kept him in, but he keep letting this ox go out. But that he have killed a man or a woman. So this man knew his ox was dangerous, but he let him out anyway, and this ox killed somebody. It says the ox shall be stoned. Wait a minute. Not just the ox. It says, and his owner also shall be put to death. And we've actually had instances like that where a brother or a sister let their dog out, and people have been telling them time and time again, brother, sister, put your damn dog up. And they let the dog run free, and they end up killing a little boy or killing a little girl or mauling them, as they say. They'll usually, now in this country, they will put the dog to death. They'll put the dog to death, but the owner, they'll find the owner, but not according to the law. According to the law, they supposed to be put to death. Boy, the Lord don't play, man. His laws are serious. But let's go ahead and go back, guys. Genesis chapter 9 and verse 6. It says, whoso sheddeth man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed. So if you murder a man, somebody has to kill you. That's the law. For in the image of God made he man. Why? Because when you murder a man, it's just like you doing it to God. After all, we're made in his image. Verse 9, it says, and you, be ye fruitful and multiply. Bring forth abundantly in the earth and multiply therein. Verse 8, and it says, and God spake unto Noah and to his sons with him, saying, behold, I establish my covenant with you and your seed after you. So the sons of Shem, Ham, and Japheth. So this right here, this is a covenant for every nation on this earth, even outside of the nation of Israel. What did it say? Verse 10. And with every living creature that is with you. So even all the creatures, and a fowl, and all the bird, and all the fowls, and of the cattle, bulls, oxen, all of that stuff. It says, and of every beast of the earth with you, from all that go out of the ark to every beast of the earth. Here's the covenant. And I will establish my covenant with you. Neither shall all flesh be cut off any more by the waters of a flood. Neither shall there any more be a flood to destroy the earth. So the Lord promised all creation of all nations, all animals, everything. He promised, I will not kill y'all anymore with a flood. Now, when he comes back, he gonna burn this world down. But he promised us, listen, I'm not gonna flood y'all anymore with a flood. Now, the reason why the Lord had to say that too is because there would come a time where man would become wicked all over this earth again. Okay? And the Lord knew that, hey, men would be looking out to see if something was going to happen to them. And the men on this earth, they know they're evil. And they know something coming to them. That's why they always looking over their shoulder and stuff. Now, there are instances in a lot of places where it rains for like 10 days straight. Well, the Lord doesn't want anyone's heart to start fluttering and think, oh my goodness, it's been raining for like 10 days straight. Oh goodness, the flood coming back. No, man ain't gonna have to worry about that flood no more. So he like, I know y'all gonna do some evil, but just know you ain't gonna have to worry about a flood coming again. So when it rain, have no fear. So now let's go ahead and continue this thing. Well, actually, let's go ahead real quick. Let's go to, I believe what I want is 2 Peter. Yeah, I think that's what I want. 2 Peter chapter 3. And I want to read verses 5. Oh, I'm in 1 John. That's why I didn't look right. 2 Peter chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. And here we go. It says, For this they were willingly ignorant of, that by the word of God the heavens were of old, and the earth standing out of the water and in the water. Well, why is that? Well, let's keep reading verse 6. Whereby the world that then was. You know, that world by that then was, that was talking about the days of Noah. A lot of people try to talk about some pre-angelic world or whatever that stuff you cannot read in the Bible. Some pre-angelic earth age or something like that. No. Right here. Whereby the world that then was, to my Noah's day, being overflowed with water, perished. And it did. The world that was pre-flood. That world was destroyed, and the only ones that made it was 8 souls and the animals that was on that ark. That was it. That was the world that then was. But now we're in a quote-unquote new age. In this world, and I believe it tells you in 2 Peter, but this world, this age that we're in, is reserved for fire. And as you guys know, fire purifies. So God is going to burn this world down. He's going to cleanse it. He's going to melt the very elements with fervent heat. And that, brothers and sisters, that's a promise. But let's keep reading. Back to Genesis 9, and I'm going to read verse 12. It says, And God said, This is the token of the covenant, which I will make between me and you, and every living creature that is with you. So this is a sign. This is a sign or a signet of the covenant, and it says for perpetual generations. Verse 13. Here's the token or the sign. It says, I do set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be for a token of the covenant between me and the earth. So this is a token of the promise that God made with all of mankind and animal kind. But let's go ahead real quick, because this token is not only in the clouds that we see. And it's funny too, before I go on, it's not really funny, that's just a figure of speech, but that very bow that the Lord set in the clouds, you see how man took that bow and they perverted it? They took the bow that God set in the clouds and used it for perversion, the same perversion that caused the flood in the first place. See, it's a mess, man. But I wanted to show you guys that this bow isn't the only, the bow isn't just in the clouds. The bow is actually somewhere else. Let's go ahead and go to Ezekiel chapter 1. Ezekiel chapter 1, and I'm going to read verse, let's read up to verse 27 and 28, and it says, And I saw as the color of amber, as the appearance of fire round about within it, from the appearance of his loins even upward, and from the appearance of his loin even downward. I saw as it were the appearance of fire, and it had brightness round about. Verse 28. As the appearance of the bow that is in the cloud in the day of rain, so is the appearance of the brightness round about. This was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of the Lord. And when I saw it, I fell upon my face, and I heard a voice of the one that spoke. So even around the Lord's throne, he has that same bow that is in the clouds. All right, so let's go to another spot. Let's go to Revelation chapter 4. Revelation chapter 4, and I'm going to read verse 2 and 3. And it says, and immediately I was in the spirit, and behold, it says, a throne was set in heaven, and one sat on the throne. Verse 3. And he that sat was to look upon like jasper and a sardine stone. And there was a rainbow, or the bow, round about the throne, in sight like unto an emerald. So that very bow that the Lord set as a covenant with all mankind and animal kind, it's not just up in the clouds, but it's also around his throne. Man, that is just amazing to me. Well, let's go ahead and go back to Genesis chapter 9. And I'm going to read verse 15. And it says, and I will remember my covenant, which is between me and you and every living creature of all earth. Even though man forgot, God ain't forgot. And that's the important part, that God ain't forgot. Because if he forgot, we'd be in very big trouble right now. And it says, and the waters shall no more become a flood to destroy all flesh. Because what's coming to destroy all flesh next time is this fire that the Lord got. That red stuff. He got some fire for this world. He's going to burn this world out. And that right there, that too is a promise. Verse 16. And it says, and the bow shall be in the cloud, and I will look upon it. Not man, us. And not us, but God. It says, and I will look upon it, that I may remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of all flesh that is upon the earth. In other words, everything that has the breath of life in it. Verse 17 says, and God said unto Noah, this is the token of the covenant, meaning this bow or rainbow, which I have established between me and all flesh that is upon the earth. Now, verse 18, it says, and the sons of Noah that went forth of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And Ham is the father of Canaan. And remember, guys, let's understand this. Not Ham, but Canaan was not Ham's only son. Somehow or some way we end up forgetting this, but Canaan was not Ham's only son. And this is important. Verse 19. These are the three sons of Noah, and of them was the whole earth overspread. So no, there were not other people outside of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. No, it was only Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth and their wives. And it tells you right here, you don't have to make nothing up. It says the whole earth was overspread of the three sons of Noah. And as you guys know, ancestral relations were allowed. They were permitted during this time. However, when it came to the nation of Israel, when the time came that we had enough populace that the Lord said, okay, I don't want you marrying, you're close to kin. But the joke is everybody is kin. That's the joke. Everybody on this earth is technically in one way or another some form of kin, but we just are not close of kin. But let's keep it moving. Verse 20, it says, and Noah began to be an husbandman. So Noah, he began to become a farmer. And it says, and he planted a vineyard, right? So this is a grape farm. 21. And he drank of the wine and was drunken. And you know that the word of God is against being drunk, because when you drunk, you out your mind. And it says, and he was uncovered in his tent. And it says 22, and Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father and told his two brethren without. So let's go figure out what Ham did. And we're going to figure out that this is just, it's messed up. But we're going to find out what it means when it says he saw the nakedness of his father. Does that mean that, you know, Ham went in the tent and he seen his father Noah butt naked. No, that is not what that's talking about. Let's go ahead and go to Leviticus chapter 20. See, we don't have to guess. The Bible interprets itself. Leviticus chapter 20, and I'm going to read verse 11. And it said, "And the man that lieth with his father's wife have uncovered his father's nakedness." And it says, "Both of them shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them." So we find out here that Ham actually had sexual relations with his mother. And then he told his two brothers, he told Shem and Japheth. Let's see what Japheth and Shem does, verse 23. So back to Genesis 9 and verse 23, and it says, "And Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it upon their shoulders and went backward and covered the nakedness of their father," meaning they covered their mother. And it says, "And their faces were backward, and they saw not their fathers naked," meaning they didn't see their mother. Verse 24, and it says, "And Noah awoke from his wine," so he awoke from his drunken stupor. And it says, "And he knew what his younger son had done unto him." Now, I've never been drunk. Don't ever plan on getting drunk because it's against the law. But from what other drunk people have said is when you get drunk, you're out of it, but you still kind of know what's going on, but you're just out of it at the moment. You're rendered immobilized, okay? So when Noah awoke from his drunken stupor, he understood what Ham had done to him, which was sleep with his wife. Verse 25, and it says, "And he said," this is very important, "and he said, Cursed be Canaan." Did he say cursed be Ham? Because Ham is the one that slept with his wife, which would be his mother. No, it said cursed be Canaan. So the Lord said, cursed be that son. So Ham, cursed be your son Canaan. Now, I don't know if Canaan is a result of what happened, but what I do know is Canaan was cursed. And it says, "A servant of servants shall he be unto his brother." Now, where did Canaan end up dwelling? In the land of Canaan. Okay, and it says, "A servant of servants shall he be unto his brother." That means that this is what's going to happen. Somebody's going to come in their land and take it over and be ruling over them, which basically means their land going to get took and they're going to become the servants. And we know who did it. The nation of Israel. But let's just keep reading. I don't want to jump ahead. Verse 26, and it says, "And he said, Blessed be the Lord God of Shem." And who is the Lord God of Shem? The Lord God of Shem is the God of Israel. It's the God of Israel. And it says, "And Canaan shall be his servant." So he shall be the servant of the Lord God of Shem, who is Christ. Therefore, if you are the servant of Christ, guess what? You are a servant to his people. Okay? Verse 27, and it says, "God shall enlarge Japheth, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant." And brothers and sisters, I'm still looking at that verse 27, and I have a pretty good idea of what it means, but I do not want to teach on it yet till I get all of my bases covered. But I do believe that this is prophecy for the far off future. And actually, I believe that this verse 27 is said the same way in different scriptures that you go to in different books of the Bible. But I do not want to cover that right now. I'm just going to move on. I'm not going to deal with that. Let's just keep reading verse 28. And it says, "And Noah lived after the flood 350 years, 29, and it said," get this, guys, "and all the days of Noah were 950 years, and he died." So Noah was the last recorded man to ever live as long as he did. 950 years. After that, man never lived that long ever again. That was it. From there, man just started dwindling in numbers. Now, we're not even making it out the womb. And those are just the facts. But I hope you guys got some good understanding with this chapter. This chapter was actually very difficult for me to go over, but I tried to keep it simple because I have a very hyperactive mind. My mind is like all over the place. There's so many things that I want to bring out, but I know that at any time I can always come back to chapter 9 and teach some of the stuff that I didn't get to touch on in this lesson today concerning Genesis chapter 9. One of them being verse 27, which I believe is prophecy. But I hope you guys got some understanding, and with that, shalom.